Hello, and welcome to this video on capital letters and punctuation. In a good orthography, we want each symbol to mark a separate sound or phoneme of the language. We talked about this in video number 9 in more detail. But besides the basic letters, what else is needed in an orthography?
In this video, we will talk about capital letters and punctuation. Not all languages use capital letters, especially non-Roman scripts like Arabic, Korean, and Devanagari. But almost all languages use some sort of punctuation.
What are these used for? Why would we want them?
Capitals and punctuation can mark sentence boundaries, grammatical features, tell who is speaking, and other things we will talk about. And languages need to show these.
So, can we start with capital letters? You said that not all languages use these.
Yes, if your orthography uses a non-Roman script like Arabic or Devanagari or Thai, you probably will not use capital letters, and this part of the video will not apply to you. But for the rest of you, let's talk about capital letters. Capital letters are bigger forms of the normal letters. Sometimes they have the same shape as the small letters. Often they have a slightly different shape, but they are always bigger in some way.
What are the most common ways to use capital letters?
People use capitals in many different ways, but here are the most common ones. First is to show the start of a sentence. The second most common way is to show names, names of people, names of countries, of cities, of schools, languages, and others. If you have a digraph, a sound that needs two symbols in writing, capitalize only the first symbol, as in English chair or Indonesian syukur. And sometimes people write in all capitals, either on signs or as emphasis.
Those are the most common uses. Do languages sometimes use capitals for other things?
Yes, these are less common. You see that I is capitalized in English even in the middle of a sentence, but not in most languages. Sometimes a language will use capitals to show some part of the grammar. For example, German capitalizes all nouns, and Zulu uses a capital letter in the middle of a word for the name of its language. But these are rare, and you probably will not use capitals like this. Usually, you will use capital letters like the national language does, or how another major language uses them.
I think punctuation may be more complicated than capitals. Can we talk about punctuation now?
Punctuation marks are those little extra marks that show the ends of sentences, ends of phrases, speakers' attitudes and tone of voice, and sometimes other things. In English, it can make the difference between the statement, "He is going home," and the question, "He is going home?" I need to say that punctuation is different from diacritics. Diacritics are always attached to a symbol, modifying it. We saw these for tone in videos 10 and 11, and for other vowel differences in video 13. Diacritics are part of these letters, but punctuation is separate from a letter.
There are lots of punctuation marks, and we can't cover them all. But let's talk about the most common ones and how they are used.
Right. We'll begin with the period or full stop. This most often shows the end of a sentence. It is also used for abbreviations like doctor and in lists and other things. It's possible to use another symbol to mark the end of a sentence. Hindi and related languages have a vertical line instead of a period. They call this the stick.
Periods are pretty easy. I think commas get more complicated.
A little bit, yes. A comma usually marks a pause when you are reading out loud, and there are many reasons for this. This is often because there is some grammatical break at that point. There is a big difference between "Let's eat, my friends," and "Let's eat, my friends." You also use a comma when there is a list of things or actions. Books, videos, and people can teach you things. I see Pedro, Marcos, and Sam. He went home, ate dinner, and went to bed. Sometimes a comma helps to just break up a sentence and helps in reading out loud, even if there is no difference in meaning. The harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. In this short sentence, you could put in a comma or leave it out. Mainly, if you think there should be a pause in reading, try a comma. See if it makes a difference in meaning or not, in your language.
Both periods and commas show some sort of pause. But are there other ways to show these pauses?
Yes, some languages use other marks. We talked about Hindi using a vertical line to show the end of a sentence. Burmese has a double vertical line, which corresponds to a period, and a single vertical line, which corresponds to a comma. So, 2 lines for the end of a sentence, 1 line for a pause inside a sentence. But other languages use spaces for the same function. Khmer uses a space for a comma. I ate meat, onions, and rice. Pry uses 1 space between words, 3 spaces for a pause like a comma, and 4 spaces for a sentence break. So, there are different ways to mark these pauses and grammar divisions.
2 punctuation marks that are bigger in size are question marks and exclamation points. Tell us about these.
Well, a question mark marks a question. That part is easy. There are several kinds of questions, but they all use the same question mark. Some questions ask for information. What are you doing? Some questions expect an answer of yes or no, but there are different kinds of these. Do you understand? You saw this, right? He actually succeeded? Whenever you ask someone to respond, you can use a question mark. These are often used in languages even if they don't use a period or comma. Other languages may have a small extra word that marks a question, and these languages don't need that extra question mark. Exclamation points are less common. They are used to emphasize something. Sometimes these are commands. Come here. Sometimes it shows surprise. Amazing. Sometimes there is another emphasis. He is very talented.
Are languages sometimes more creative in using these symbols?
Yes, indeed. In Natagu of Solomon Islands, they use the question mark before and after questions so that readers can tell at the beginning of a sentence if it's a question, and then say it correctly. In Spanish, at the beginning of a sentence, Spanish uses both upside-down question marks and upside-down exclamation points. Where are you going? ¿A dónde vas? What a surprise! ¡Qué sorpresa!
It is also helpful to have punctuation marks to tell if someone is speaking. This can really help in writing local stories which have several characters. Sometimes the language itself has ways of telling who is speaking, but sometimes more punctuation is needed.
This punctuation is called quotation marks. Use these when you are telling someone's exact words. He said, "I will go." If you are not telling the exact words someone said, don't use quotation marks. He said he would go. As you mentioned, some languages have morphemes that show direct speech, and for these languages, you don't need quotation marks. One complication is when there is a quotation inside a quotation. For example, John said, "Here's what the man said, I will go," but he didn't. Here, the main quote uses the double quotation marks, and the quote within the quote uses single quotation marks. Note that in some fonts, the quotation marks are straight up and down. In others, they are curved, and the beginning and end quotation marks curve in opposite directions. If they curve, be sure to put this one at the beginning of the quote and this one at the end. French quotation marks look different and include an extra space. He said, "I see you." Other languages use yet other symbols for quotations.
The single quotation mark looks a lot like an apostrophe. Let's talk about that.
An apostrophe does look like a single quotation mark, but of course, its use is different. An apostrophe marks possession, or a contraction. The bird's wing. He's going home. In some languages, what looks like an apostrophe is used for glottal stop. And glottal stop, apostrophe, and single quotation marks are easy to get mixed up. They look alike. If you are writing by hand, it doesn't make much difference. But if you are working with a computer program, it can make a difference. See video number 19 on technical issues.
Another punctuation mark comes up sometimes, and that is the hyphen. When do we use that?
Hyphens join two words or word parts to make a new word. Full-time, father-in-law. An example from Mien puts house plus owner, meaning landlord. Depending on your language, you may not need to use these. We talked about these a little toward the end of video 15 on word divisions.
In this video, we have looked at how capital letters are used and the most common punctuation marks. There are other punctuation marks we don't have time for here. like the colon, semicolon, and dash. But this is enough to get you started.